What's going on, you guys? My name is Don't Panic 494, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Battlefield 4 multiplayer reveal that happened at E3, and I have to say I am pretty jacked up about it. First and foremost, I feel like this definitely needs to be addressed. They have announced the return of Commander Mode to Battlefield. The last time we saw Commander Mode in a Battlefield game was back in Battlefield 2, so it's kind of an exciting idea that they're going to be bringing that back. One of the caveats to this new Commander Mode is that you will apparently be able to do it on mobile devices and tablets. Now, I have absolutely no idea how that's going to work. During the presentation, they showed some girl at a coffee shop playing Commander Mode on Battlefield 4. So I don't really know what the mechanics are going to be to allow you to do that. I don't know if you join specific servers. I don't really know, but I think it's kind of an interesting idea. Hopefully in the relatively near future, we'll get some more details on how exactly the mobile connection part of this is going to work. But aside from that, they have highlighted a few of the features. The most predominant one, at least in the demo, was the airstrike feature. So one of the developers standing off to the side of the stage with an iPad was able to launch a Tomahawk missile strike, which ended up, I believe, destroying a couple of tanks on the ground. So things like that, they really can change the outcome of, any given game at any given time. A few of the other things they tried to highlight about the Commander Mode in Battlefield 4 was that you will be able to, one way or another, counter the commanders on the other team and vice versa. They didn't really highlight anything specific. They just mentioned that you can, one way or another, have countermeasures to whatever they're doing, or you can prevent them from doing things, something like that, which is very interesting. Also, they highlighted the fact that your abilities as a commander are going to be dictated by the performance of your team on the ground. So the assumption is that if the team on the ground is doing poorly, then the commander is going to have a completely different set of features available to him than if your team is doing incredibly well on the ground. Now, in terms of balance, I'm not exactly sure how that would work. I don't know if when your team's doing poorly, you have more options available to you. I'm not sure if it's going to work like that, or maybe if your team holds certain points, then you're able to do airdrops or things like that via the commander. I'm not really sure. What I do know is that it's going to completely change the way that Battlefield 3 players who are not really familiar with the franchise as a whole are going to play the game, and I think that's kind of exciting. Next, I think the second biggest thing that stuck out to me about this entire presentation was they really flexed Frostbite 3's muscle in terms of its destructive capabilities. Now, they showcased this in a few different ways. First, which was the most subtle way, is that throughout the entire multiplayer gameplay, you could see bullets being fired from both teams that were kind of chipping away at portions of the map in ways that you really don't see in Battlefield 3. Granted, in some of the close quarters maps like Zeba Tower, where most of the interior of the map is highly destructible, that's kind of the feeling that I got when I was watching this gameplay, except it seemed to apply to much more of the map than it does, in Battlefield 3 maps. One of the pinnacle points of the entire gameplay was they showcased a skyscraper on the multiplayer map, which actually had a conquest capture point on the top of it. They showed that skyscraper being toppled in the middle of a round. Now, this is cool for a few different reasons. One, it looked baller as shit because it's Frostbite 3. Frostbite 3 is beautiful, and seeing buildings fall is awesome. One other way this is kind of neat is presumably that would change the way the entire map plays, since one of the capture points is either A, completely gone, or B, it's now a pile of rubble on the ground that you have to, kind of sift through to get to. Either way, I think it's fantastic that that's part of the multiplayer experience of Battlefield 4. Another way that they showcased the destruction of the maps was that in an interior of the building, they were, I believe, on like a basement floor, and one of the squad members fired a grenade out of his, M320 grenade launcher at a structural pole in the building. That structural pole then gave way and caused that portion of the building to collapse, and right above it was the street. and there happened to be a tank on the street at that point, and the tank fell through the ceiling of the basement into the basement, and I mean, you essentially just completely take it out of play, but it looked awesome, and just the ability to do things like that are really cool. Hopefully that's not just, you know, a one-time thing just in that one map in that one spot. Hopefully they incorporate that type of design into all of their maps. So that's assuming that Frostbite 3 has the capabilities across the board to do what it did in this map demo. On the topic of map design, that's just one more thing that struck me about this gameplay. It appears, at least in this one particular map, which was the Siege of Shanghai map, it appears that they are incorporating more of a vertical level design into their larger conquest maps, which I think is really neat. Like I mentioned, one of the capture points was actually on top of a skyscraper, and it may be the only way, we're not really sure, but one of the ways to get to it, the way that they did so in the gameplay, was they actually took an elevator from the lobby to the top floor and into the room where the flag was. I'm a big fan of dynamic level design, and I'm a big fan of having maps that are not just big flat open areas. So, we have city maps from Battlefield 3, but none of them incorporate, vertical gameplay to the point of being up, hundreds of feet in a skyscraper. So if they incorporate that in more than just one map, and they really do make some of their larger maps more vertical, I think that would be really cool. Battlefield as a franchise is something that I've been in love with from the absolute very beginning. And I am all for the changes that DICE is making to the gameplay. Everything that they've done so far, I really do think has been awesome. They definitely had some missteps here and there with Battlefield 3, but I really do think Battlefield 4 is going to knock it out of the park, at least from what I've seen so far. But, like I mentioned in my last video, there are still a lot of unanswered questions that I'm really excited to get the answers to. And until that point, I'm going to stay very optimistic and very excited for the release of Battlefield 4. But I want to take this time to thank you guys very much for watching this video. I promise as soon as I get any more information, I will definitely post a video on my thoughts on it, and we'll go from there. So again, thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day and spending them with me, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, and Star Wars!